Little Elkhart in 1943, when my Uncle Philip died. We were not living there then, we were living in Sheboygan. The winter before, 1942, we lived at Little Elkhart. And I remember Donna, your brother Lee's first words were hot, because we had a big old round oak stove in the basement, and he touched the stove and he got burnt a little bit. He says hot. And yeah, that's right. That's his first words was hot.
No money to heat the upstairs, I had to live in the basement.
No jobs could be gotten.
No job.
Oh. And they think times are tough now. Oh, shit.
Any crazy memories from those days? When you were young kids and did anything really crazy, strange, fun? Anything?
Not really.
Anything
No,
that
I can't
you...
say nothing, no.
No, everybody, I mean, we weren't the only ones that got married young. Cousins were married both young, and everybody was about alike in those days. Everybody was no money, no job. It was tough finding a job. Very tough.
So for entertainment, since the money wasn't there, what would you guys do?
You know what?
Oh. Play,
Tell them the way it is.
play cards. Oh.
Yeah.
Anything other than that?
No.
Well, I'll tell
You
you.
can't do that every night, or maybe you did, I don't know. But.
Tim. Come on now, Tim. That. Yes. Yeah, yeah.
Movies back then?
Had no
We
money to
were-
go to
we were-
movies.
Okay.
Never watched.
Not no movie.
We were
no
not
movie.
much, very little
No
for
movies.
movie people.
Don't watch a movie to this day, only
This
half
day,
an hour movie.
Half of
show.
our little shows, we
That's it.
never were into the movies.
Nope.
Music?
Country music, I like country music.
And old-time polka music, yeah.
That,
So
I
that,
listen to. I listen to that on Saturday mornings, right?
now,
Yeah.
now we listen to it,
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, you,
it's a different world.
oh, it's so different. Oh, it's so different. No insurance, we had no health insurance. I don't remember exactly what Donna cost, but I remember Lee at the Plymouth Hospital here, his bill was, when I was in for 9 days, it was $30 for 9 days in the hospital, including the labor room, everything. $30 for the whole thing, and didn't have the $30. That's how tough it was.
Gallon of gas, do you remember?
Gallon of gas, yes. I remember Green Bay, I don't remember around here, but Green Bay tanker gas was 8 for $1. I remember that.
8 gallons for $1.
8 gallons for $1.
$1.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Around here, 20 cents a gallon was quite common. Here, the 5 gallons for $1 was quite common. And which gasoline is a bargain today yet, compared to what other things gasoline could be, is a bargain today yet. That's true.
Map that we were just talking about for generations to go? Anything else that,
Well,
How much is a loaf of bread? Gallon of milk?
that was out of my,
I don't remember what the gallon of milk was, but I do remember when my mother did have some money, we'd buy a gallon, probably a half a gallon of syrup, Karo syrup in a little metal pail. And I remember when that syrup was empty, she'd send me up to the Midwest Creamery, and I'd have to get that full of milk, and I think that was only a quarter. I remember right, I think I owed that just a
12 and a
quarter.
half cents a quart,
Yep.
which sounds,
Yep, in a old metal container.
you're,
how about going and get the beer?
I'm just gonna say that. And then sometimes if we had a little money, my dad would send me up to the Joe Schultz Tavern in Plymouth. And I'd take my little bucket up there and I'd have to get that full of beer and then I'd go back home. When I got to the tavern, they always had pretzels or popcorn on the bar. So then while he was filling my bucket up, I would eat pretzels and popcorn. And we'd go home and my dad would drink his beer for the night. and he didn't have any money, he took it off on the ice bill.
Cause Grandpa was a ice,
Grandpa was ice man.
Oh, yes.
the ice man in Plymouth, he
Plymouth,
delivered ice.
Yep.
That was his, he owned the ice house in Plymouth.
Okay.
He was the owner of
And we
Plymouth Ice Company.
We also had some chickens at home. And I remember when we'd probably get a dozen of eggs extra, my mother would send me down to old Bessergake's grocery store. And I'd trade that dozen of eggs in, and she'd have a slip what I should bring home. And almost every time I got there, we were always overdrawn. The man would always say, "You're way overdrawn already, you can't have this." And I remember that very well. Probably cookies, he'd eliminate the cookies and probably come home with a loaf of bread or something, but we were always overdrawn. The eggs never covered for what she wanted.
And the eggs were probably, eggs today are not much different. Years ago, people lived off the eggs. Farm, Ma would buy her groceries, take a case of eggs in a week, and buy the groceries out of a case of eggs, which eggs were around 50 cents a dozen in those days, between 40 and 50 cents a dozen, as long as I remember. Eggs were in that class. Today they're what, 85 cents? I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't-
if they're even that, I think they might be even a little bit less. I
Even
don't know.
less,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
eggs have stayed, but most of the groceries were bought out of, all farmers had chickens, and they bought their groceries out of eggs.
Did you ask how much a gallon of gas was then?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got that on there, okay.
Let's touch base on Grandpa's job that you were doing way back then. I think you had mentioned earlier on how much you were making per hour. What were you doing to make that per hour?
Cleveland Container hated factory work, just hated it. It was 33 1/3 cents an hour, and it was a paper thing where they made paper tubes and containers. It was known as Cleveland Container. And on a tube cutter I worked, or I would cut the tubes certain lengths and that, and dusty, and gee, and I hated it. It was not a pleasant job, and I didn't care for that kind of, and I never worked in a factory after that. Factory work was not for me.
How long did you work there?
Through, when we got married, through the winter,
Mhm.
through the winter.
Okay. Next job?
Then I went to drive truck, a weight truck out of Adel, worked there for, I don't know, 5-6 months. Then went to Sheboygan in 1943, to the Wisconsin Oil Refining Company. It was a refining, place that processed crude oil into gasoline, fuel oil, and whatever, road oil. And I worked there until 1947,
I think someone went on
47.
farm.
47.
Okay. Making
And
how
then-
much? Do you remember that?
Oh, then I went, the factory, the truck driving job in Adel was 40 cents an hour, and for the same kind of work, only more hazardous because of being petroleum, was 80 cents an hour. And, well, then, that was a little better wages, but that company was union, and after you were there a while, you got more. But, I know the most I got there was $1.25. It went up to $1.25, and that was, but, I remember one time in particular, I made 3 round trips to Sturgeon Bay to the shipyards without sleep. Three trips, round trips, which is 90 miles each way. So I made 3 of those rounds without, was during the war, and they needed the petroleum, and drivers were short. But holy shit, I couldn't do that today.
Did
You
you
know-
have any, kind of benefits with the company? There was no insurance or anything
No.
available? No.
Insurance was not a, I did belong to the union, which, if I'd have stayed with that, I'd have got a benefits after a while, but I checked in later years, and they didn't have benefit things at that time.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. And then then I worked at Dodge Plymouth Agency for 1 year. And then we came home, and I worked there part-time for 3-4 years, on 50 or 51, till my dad died.
As doing what?
Mechanical work at Plymouth, Plymouth. At Gesser Hoffman, Dodge Plymouth dealership. Which makes it a reason why I'm still Chrysler-minded. to this day, you know. That's where I started, you know.
And of all the jobs you did, which one was the best?
The most healthiest, if you wanna say healthiest, it was the farm life was the healthiest, which I think is the reason why Grandma and I are still here. We use a shovel and fork a lot, all handwork, and I think that kept, that and good eating is why we're still here. That's my idea of it. What do you think? What do you think?
I think so, probably.
Oh, yes, fresh air and, yes,
Exercise.
it's a healthy life. Wasn't much money, but
Made a living.
made a living, and that's all you're on this earth is to eat anyhow, you know what I told you, Tim.
Eating and talking.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then you worked in Implement too,
And I worked Plymouth Implement.
and you should
for
have never worked there. You
15
still got
years.
money coming.
15 years, they're dead and gone, we lived without it. So I worked there 15 years, tractor and so on. Yeah,
We're kind of just leading up to the kids, where that'll probably be part 2 as far as children and that, so we're thinking of anything before first child came along, anything else? Jobs wise, or,
well, job-wise, Tim, jobs were very hard to come by. Until the war got in its, then jobs were available. If you had experience or not, there was a shortage.
And what war was this, and who was involved in this war?
World War II involved Japan, Italy, and Japan, Italy. Who was the Axis? The three of them. Japan, Italy,
Germany?
Germany?
and Germany.
Mhm.
Yeah. That was. And I had my greetings from Uncle. Had the war not ended, I already had the greetings to leave, and the war was ended in, what's the date of him that it war? August of 45.
And greetings being drafted?
Being
You were close.
drafted, that's
Mhm.
right. Yeah, I already had to, yeah. And it was canceled. Which, because I had the 2 kids, kept me out until they were getting short of manpower.
Okay.
Anything else? Anything else?
I'm gonna pause for a second. I'm gonna pause for a second. All right, anything else in that neck of the woods?
What did you work the hardest on what is your main big thing you did on the farm? You got that in here. And I remember that one.
You're still rolling, right? All right, Grandpa, read that question again and answer it, please.
What was the first big thing you did on the farm? Putting in a water system and septic system. That was,
You moved into the farm when?
in 1948.
Bought it?
In 1959.
And where was this farm?
3 miles west of Plymouth on Highway County Trunk P.
How many acres?
80 acres. 50 some odd, 55 acres probably under plow, and the rest balanced woods and wasteland.
Farming what?
Cattle, dairy farm for first years, and later years had hogs.
How many heads of cattle?
The most we had milk cows was 18, I think. 18, wasn't it, Gene? I think 18.
About 16, but maybe
Well, we put the row on the other side.
4 over the other end.
Yeah. I think probably 16 to 18 was the most, yeah.
Milking.
No.
Milking.
Milkers.
Okay.
Which was average of those days, earlier years, that's what the average guys had, 12 to 16 cows, yeah. What 80 acre farm had on it.
Average day on the farm consisted of getting up at what time?
Getting up, well, 6 o'clock, right, Gene? 6 o'clock, because the milkman's,
I had to go to work at 7.
that's right.
Well, And emphasize, we'll say too, so that everybody gets the picture, how long were you on the farm?
How many years?
Yep.
From 1948 till 1990, which is 42,
Years.
42 years.
42 and a half years to be exact.
Pretty long.
Yeah,
Very long.
and I'd be there yet, but,
Where did you live before you moved on to the farm?
in Sheboygan, in Sheboygan. In Sheboygan.
An
On
apartment?
31st Street. Right across from St. Nicholas Hospital. Where St. Nicholas Hospital sits, there was a farm there, where we got our raw milk. We used the milk that
Pasteurized.
wasn't pasteurized, and the kids both were raised on that. They were never sick. And they were used to raw milk, so when we come home on the farm, we never pasteurized the milk. So today, you don't drink that, as a rule.
And the land that you had, the crops would consist of?
Corn, oats, mainly corn, oats, and hay. And later years I grew some wheat. Mostly with oats and corn and hay. That's right. And the first years it was all done the primitive way yet, with the hay loader, and Grandma would mow it away in the mow, we'd bring it home and mow, would be in the mow and mow the hay away. And very hard work, very hard work.
You were selling milk for how much then?
The most I can remember getting in the later years was butterfat was $1.18 was the top, and then you multiply that time your test, which test is probably average 3.5, 3.6. So you're talking what? Between $4 and $5 a hundred, I would say at the most. Would that be right? $1.18 times 3.5. Yeah, I'd say between $4 to $5 a hundred. Yeah.
And doing this farming thing paid the bills?
No.
No, the first years Mom worked in town. She also forgot she worked at a biscuit factory in town here. I didn't want to correct her. She worked at the biscuit factory, and I worked as a mechanic at the Chrysler agency, Plymouth agency, I should say, part-time. And some years, one year we didn't have money, 1952. We didn't have money to buy license on the car, which were $10. We drove the old pickup truck to work, and had it set down by the edge of the driveway so we could get out. Big snowstorms would come along, like we don't get today anymore. And didn't have money for a license. $10. Easily $10.
Fun,
Mm-hmm.
real fun.
What's the worst?
But we paid the bills. We got the bills paid. That was the important thing, and it was tough. As they say, it was tough titty. It wasn't, Mama.
You bet. You bet it was.
What was the worst snowstorm that you remember back those days?
The worst, we had some, in 1955, we had a big snowstorm. But the bigger snowstorms I remember was the year my grandmother and my uncle died. In 1930, the winter of 35 and 6. There you could walk, the telephone poles, the snow was plowed up that high that you grabbed the line, the high line with your hand if you wanted to. It was the blizzard conditions that winter, my mother often told me, it lasted for 6 weeks, never got above 0 for 6 weeks. We don't need that.
Don't tell me that one.
That never got above 0. And it was blizzard conditions for days and days. I mean, you were snowed in. We were snowed in tight.
And no modern equipment to remove it.
That's right. The first trucks they had, I remember they had bucking pole between two of the county trucks, one pushing the other. In those days, those trucks were only two-wheel drive also. And so they'd have two trucks together, one pushing the other, with a bucking pole. You know, I can see them guys. What is Joe Webb, and who was Jimmy Mullen, and who else? And there were more, the Schmidt boys, or my cousins, those guys all were on the pony at that time, sure.
Okay.
And the gravel pit is still on 23 between Plymouth and Greenbush. That gravel pit was there when I was a kid. I remember crushing there when I was small. So that's been there a long time. Yeah. And the road was blacktop probably in 1930. Height A between Glen and Greenbush was blacktop probably in 1934. I would guess. 1934.
All right, so we're gonna pause here and we'll continue part 2 the next
Next
time.
episode?
The next episode.
Well, it is Heather hanging out with you, and I gotta tell you, it's a WPKR